You know the old saying, money doesn't grow on trees. Well, it doesn't have to, because right now they can just create it with the press of a button from a magic computer. Let's talk about that and why gold and silver would be the ultimate stopgap against such a thing as we explore. That's right, we're discovering more and more ways that your and my federal tax dollars have been wasted and created out of thin air by other agencies within the federal government. Not just the Federal Reserve either. Yeah, that's right. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. I'm going to play for you a clip here in a moment that describes exactly what I'm talking about with these 14 magic money computers. It sounds something out of a cartoon, but nonetheless, it is something that's very real that's occurring here as we discover more waste, fraud, and abuse. One thing is for sure, you cannot abuse gold and silver. In terms of the physical properties of the metal, there's only so much of it that can go around. And of course, many people talk about how the pricing mechanisms are indeed suppressive for both metals, especially silver. But sooner or later, they are going to reveal themselves to be the ultimate store of wealth when more and more people realize what's going on with it. In fact, that's part of what I want to bring to you in this video. And so if you are just beginning to stack gold and silver or are thinking about doing it, this video is for you. And maybe you'll consider Summit Metals as one place to check for the lowest prices for gold and silver, great customer service, and fast shipping. So check out summitmetals.com. Now, when you think about what's going on in our system today, our monetary system, whether or not you understand the Federal Reserve System and how money is created, you know the ramifications of what they do to abuse it. And that's right. What you're looking at here is a $100 bill. And let's rewind back to 1913, December the 23rd, specifically. On that day, the government essentially approved and was signed into law the Federal Reserve Act. And back then, this essentially was equal to this, $1. That means that essentially the dollar has lost about 98 to 99% of its value since 1913. This was worth a whole lot more than it is today. So we're going to leave this up here so you can get an idea that this is essentially the new dollar these days. It's just two zeros in front of it. Now, we know there's stories of hyperinflation where other nations have really abused their currencies and printed like crazy. Well, here in the United States, we have the advantage of being the top nation around the world in terms of the top world reserve currency, the dollar. And so we have gotten to this stage where we have this massive amount of hubris that we can do anything. Yes, indeed, we can do anything, including abuse our dollar and abuse our monetary system. And here's an example of what has just been discovered by Doge about 14 magic money computers.
One of the things you told me about is what you call
insane.
magic money computers at the Treasury.
Well,
Tell us about it, because I never heard of that until you brought that up.
okay, so you may think that the government computers all talk to each other, they synchronize, they add up what funds are going somewhere, and it's it's coherent. There's and that the numbers, for example, that you're presented as a senator, are actually the real numbers.
One would think.
One would think they're not.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're not totally wrong, but they're probably off by 5% or 10% in some cases. So I call a magic money computer any computer which can just make money out of thin air. That's magic money.
So how does that work?
It just issues payments.
And you said there's something like 11 of these computers at Treasury that are sending out trillions in payments?
They're mostly at Treasury. Some are, but there's some at HHS, some there's one or two at State, there's some at DOD. I think we found now 14 magic money computers. where
14, okay.
They just send money out of nothing.
Out of nothing. Now, that was Elon Musk, the head of DOGE, which stands for the Department of Government Efficiency. And no matter what your political viewpoints are, well, you've got to be pretty upset that they can do this and they can waste your money like this. Money out of nothing. Now, there are a couple of questions I have about this. Well, the Treasury, at least that I know of, can't actually issue Federal Reserve notes. Federal Reserve notes, indeed, come from the Federal Reserve. And so now the Treasury can issue Treasury notes, and there has been some talk of that. We see that over the Debt Clock website, these Treasury notes. But what exactly does that mean? And how are they issued? And how are they spent? I really don't know. It's something that goes back to the Kennedy administration, and many people feel that has what led to his demise. So what about these Treasury notes? How are they utilized? Are they in terms of treasuries, like, the T-bills? Is that Treasury notes, or some sort of variant based off of that? Based off of this new this type of Treasury system where we've had notes that were issued. The United States note were issued back then in conjunction with the Federal Reserve notes. It gives the Treasury a little bit more power, a heck of a lot more power. And there has been some rumor in the past that the Federal Reserve was now controlled by the Treasury in the first Trump administration. Of course, that is not true, has not happened. But nonetheless, we could see a lot of changes coming based off of what we're learning right now with these magic money computers that are essentially creating money out of nothing. Now, what's backing them? The Federal Reserve. In other words, the Federal Reserve can digitize, and that's what they mostly do. They're not really printing dollars like you see here. There's not as much of that happening these days because so much in our system is digital. And of course, with the FedNow system, which is the framework for a central bank digital currency still in effect, that is something that is worth investigating in and of itself. How was the money being created, and how is the Treasury able to do this without the Federal Reserve being in on it? And likely they probably are. A lot of questions, but nonetheless, the bottom line here, folks, is that money is being created and printed for these payments that are being issued with these 14 magic money computers and the federal government that sends money out of nothing. And this was a podcast from Ted Cruz's Verdict, and this is quite a bombshell for sure. And it just goes to show you that they can and have been doing this for a long time. In fact, they can produce money so quickly and so easily, bureaucrats can't spend it fast enough. That's a big problem. It took so long. In fact, I don't even think that all of the COVID money was entirely spent either. Now, gold and silver can stop them. There's no question about it, because you can't print gold and silver. They have to be mined and produced. The only way that you can really do that and abuse that is through the derivatives market, through the futures, the ETFs, which we see that happening and being abused anyway, which is many people feel is a suppressive force. Notwithstanding, states are now taking action because they see what has been going on with inflation rising, and they are recognizing, some of them, gold and silver as legal tender. That's extremely important because it defies the Federal Reserve and what they are doing. And I think that is remarkable and empowering. Why is it empowering? Because they have the authority to do so under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. None of these state legislatures that have made moves in this direction, that range anywhere from removing taxation on gold and silver bullion to actually recognizing gold and silver as legal tender, and some states have actually begun to accumulate gold and silver in their own reserves. They're creating a central bank essentially for their own states, and I think that's amazing and wonderful. And the more that more states that do that, the more empowering it is, to the point now where you can take gold and silver and transact with gold and silver. And I think that's pretty amazing. And I think we're going to see essentially this hastening of the sound money revolution when we hear things like this about these magic money computers that the federal government have through the Treasury and other agencies where they can just issue these payments literally out of nothing. Don't you wish you and I could have that power? If we had a little money printing machine, we can just fork out a couple of dollars or a couple $100 or a couple $100,000, pay off our mortgage and what have you. Yeah, we can't do it, but they can. Well, nonetheless, we can protect ourselves against an inflating dollar because obviously these magic money computers are inflationary, no question about that. And we can do that by holding gold and silver. And even if you just have a few ounces of each, or a couple ounces of silver and maybe a tenth or 2/10 of an ounce of gold or a quarter ounce, you are empowering yourself. You are making a statement and protecting the wealth that you have with gold and silver. So that's what it's about. So let me know what your thoughts are about this story today. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.